Hey, what's up? We're live. Thank you for being here. Today's gonna be another critique session, number 7. Now, hear me out. And I'm gonna let people join in. Let me just audio because I hear myself. So, hear me out. There is a lot to go through. We have about 33 files. Now, some of these files contain multiple paintings and references side by side. So, we're gonna go fast today. I'm gonna let people come in. Hopefully, if you sent me a painting, you'll get to see it now. Um, Let me tell you whose paintings I have today so that if you're here, you can know to stay. So we have Alfie, Erica, Kuntal, Lisa, Lise, Liz, Marco, Mayor, and Pat. Okay, now I have a lot to go through, so again, I'm gonna consolidate some of this. But in any case, in the meantime, let me know how you're doing, what's up. And I actually think after this one, we'll take a break from the critiques because I need to regroup. These are very tiring. But actually, they're very educational for me as well because just seeing other people's paintings. Now, let me open up so that you can see here. Seeing other people's paintings is beneficial to me as well. I learn a lot from your successes and mistakes. Hey, Steve, how are you doing? Here for the duration. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Luis. Hey, Liron, Luis again from the Philippines. It's been a long time. Yes, but not that long, though. I remember seeing you here a while ago. Or maybe my uh, understanding of time and the way I perceive it now is all out of whack. Hey, John, how are you? Hope you are doing well. Lord J. Flecko, where do I send the paintings? To my email address, liron@lironian.com. Let me add a little note down below. There should be this here. I'm gonna do run it. Now here's the thing. I don't know when will be the next time I'm doing this kind of a session. So can't confirm like when I'll go over any paintings that you send me. I'm gonna put it here in the top. Where do I put it so you actually see? There's nowhere. Let's put it. Not as graceful as I'd want it to be. Do I see a quick option to add a shadow? Okay, there's a back. And a background. Okay, there we go. That's my address. You can send stuff over there. But again, I don't know when the next time that I'll do this is gonna be. So yeah, Liz, hi from South Africa. So Liz, your stuff is gonna be here. If I'm not mistaken. Yep, they are. Let's see, Lisa. Good morning from Idaho, and I'd say stay whoever you critique. Oh, that's cool. That's very nice of you. Kafka's Kaprazli. How can I send? Please, again, email address above me. That's where you want to send yours. Again, it may take me a while. It's not going to be in this session. This session is just for the people who already sent me their paintings. Deborah Goodwin, good morning from New Hampshire. Thank you for being here. Nancy, okay, again, up there, you can see. Oh, yeah, we read that. I'm going over messages again, I think. What type of paintings? Any limits? Dali, acrylic. Yeah, don't send Dali. I mean, just your paintings. I don't care the medium. Honestly, even pencil sketches, everything is great. Your art, but no AI because I'm not gonna critique an AI. Sunny Vanny. Hello, Liron. Hello, everyone. Finally made it to the live. Thank you so much for being here. Miss Wells. Hi, Liron. I'm new here. I paint, draw, etc., but wanted to ask what painting course you would suggest for my 9-year-old daughter is very, very good at art for her age. Interesting. So courses aimed specifically at kids, I actually don't know, but you don't have to go that way. I'd get her started on Proco's fundamentals playlist. That's a great place to start for just understanding the fundamentals of drawing. Just that, because if she's good at just drawing from observation, that's a great place to be, and then you add a bit of structure to it and you're good to go. So it's Proko, Proko, the fundamentals. Now he does do a lot of anatomy, so if you want to stay clear of that, because obviously there's nudity in that. But for the drawing fundamentals, just vet it before you let her watch it, I think. I don't know if my course would be suitable for a 9-year-old. It could. I do know a lot of people have purchased them for their grandkids, kids. Also, the books. I do know some people do that, but I don't. It's not made for this purpose. I do have a perspective book for kids specifically. So that's something you want to check out. Maybe on Amazon, you can look Liron Perspective for Kids, and you'll find it. I hope that's helpful. I would do the course with her at the same time. Then, yep, it's a good idea. Yes. If you want to try out my drawing course, and there should be a link in the description box, you can go for that and see if it's suitable. If not, get one that's. Mine doesn't have any nudity or figures. So. Lisa, I'm here, Liron. This is Lisa. I sent you some paintings. Thank you. Yes, I believe these are yours. Yes, I believe so. Yes. Morning from Iowa. From Santa Cruz Mountains. Awesome. Erica, hi, Liron. Everyone, thank you for being here. Yeah, you got it, Miss Wells. I'm happy I can help. Catherine, hi from France. Awesome. Ekaterina, hey, how are you doing? Piccolina from Italy. Hello, Pierre. How are you doing? Miss Wells, I don't understand. Thanks. I really like your style of teaching and explaining. Thank you. Thank you so much. So with that, let's get to some critiques. Pat, yes, you're here as well. So I will make a significant effort to finish everything today. Let me just play around. There we go. I'm gonna make again a significant effort to finish everything. I don't want to postpone this to another session. So we'll go fast and hopefully everyone gets their critique. So Alfie, we have 2 more from last time. So I will say this, which is really cool. Alfie seems to be working by painting the highlights, and that's something maybe you want to try out. So one approach to watercolor would be do an underpainting with all the light values and then start layering shadows on top. But another approach is you just paint from light to dark, but you start with the highlights. So you don't cover everything with a yellow, you just paint the highlights where they are as a shape. Now, what's good about this is that it's easy to see where the shadow is. It's where the highlight is not. The disadvantage sometimes is that you are, sometimes you can be left with a bit of a, see this kind of a gap, so you have to mind the gap. But other than that, it's a great method and it's a very nice structure. And it translates nicely to having nice clear shapes like this one. Which I really, really like. The one critique I had, I think, a while ago was just to pay attention to all the leaves and try not to... Maybe don't try to paint each and every leaf, but try to have more flow and connections. Which you can see a bit of here. It's not detrimental to the painting in any way, but just saying. And thank you for jumping onto the last one, which it shouldn't have done. I tested in advance and it looked like it won't, but I don't know why. And another one by Alfie. What I really like about this one is the saturated green down here. That's really, really nice. In general, I think your approach is very interesting. I wouldn't have, again, too much critique. Just with the leaves, maybe don't be as literal. And just think about it as one big shape. And think how that shape can be beautiful for the viewer. So when you look at, for example, your branches here, you see that they have all sorts of nuance in them. Now, I would think, what's the overall shape that I want to have in them, and then go with that. Don't let the individual leaves dictate the shape for you. Other than that, great. I love the contrast with the green, yellow, and the purple. That works really, really well. Way to go, Alfie. I actually don't have too much critiques because I love these, and it's great job. Maybe sometimes it's a little too dark on the darks, like this. Maybe you could do it a touch lighter to improve the composition a bit. Just go like this, send it a little to the background. It's a suggestion. Next up, we have Erica. So this is really cool, actually, because the colors of the original reference photo are a nightmare to match. They're very bright. I would personally have a hard time with it. You did a great job. So you have some mistakes that are very common, and it actually relates to perspective. So I'll go over that for a bit. What you want to remember is, due to the angle, so we're closer to this side of the shed. So things move away from us in perspective. So you get this kind of a thing. And at infinity, these three lines will meet. Right? Now, your drawing doesn't really reflect that. You have 1, and then 2, and then 3. So just something to pay attention to. I actually think... So let me preface this. I think this is very graceful. Actually, I like the way you did it, and I like even the little creativity here with the splashes and the way you did these lines, and the colors are great. I really, really like them. Just the structure could be improved, and then you're golden, and you can go much faster and improve much better. Just this, you want to have that angle here, okay? And have all of these, because they're all parallel, right? If you look at it from the front, you'll just get a parallel, bunch of parallel lines. Roof, and that's pretty much it, right? So when you tilt it in perspective, you'll get this kind of a thing. By the way, I do want to talk a bit more about drawing soon, but that's the kind of thing you'll get, so you want to be aware of that. Now, the bottom you followed really well. This angle is great. But notice what happens with this little structure here. So, and this is a tendency everyone has to flatten out perspective. So when we look at the reference, these lines, again, they point somewhere, right? Somewhere around, I guess, somewhere around this height, right? That will be kind of a horizon line. Now, we have a tendency to flatten these and send them up. I don't know what it is about it, but just bringing up the horizon to a place that doesn't make sense. See, because it's going to be outside of the frame. And that's a little confusing to look at. And people don't even understand why, but something doesn't look right. People, the viewer, I mean. So pay attention to that. These lines, again, quite flat, and you got this kind of a wavy thing. Usually things will flatten near the horizon. That's kind of the emphasis here that I want you to take. Now, there is another interesting thing happening. It's not that big of a deal, but what you'll notice is because of the angle, it's a little from above, right? Look at what happens to all the vertical lines. So this line, this line, this line, this line, this line, these lines, see? What happens is, it's very tough to see, but if I now remove the photo, which I can't because I did it on the same layer, but let me show you actually. Let's try it out. So again, if I just repeat the lines I have here on the new layer, look what happens when I remove that layer. See how they're all kind of tilted. They're fanning. Because what happens is these lines tend to converge to a vanishing point down below. Now, this is a little more advanced, but think about it this way. The higher your angle is, the more the lines are going to curve out. They're going to fan out. The higher it is, they're going to fan in. They're going to be the other way around. Think about it looking at a building from below. You see it kind of tapering into the sky. Looking at it down a building, you'll see it tapering down towards the ground. So this is very subtle, but it does show. So when you look at the way you did these lines, they're all, this here is nice. This is actually, you got that nice. That does curve a bit. But then these lines, I'm not sure what they're doing. Maybe you follow the logs. And the tree as well. The tree should also follow that pattern, interestingly enough. Okay? So it's more about perspective. I hope that makes sense. Let me see. I didn't see you in the chat, but let's see here. I got Arena. Thank you. Yashwant. Greetings from India. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I'm happy I could help. Kuntal, hey, don't worry. Yours are coming up next. Praveen, how are you doing? Thank you, Praveen. I think I didn't get to yours because they were maybe new. What if the tree is wispy like a willow or has very fine leaves, lots of light? Yeah, so that's something you want to capture. If it really has a lot of gaps, then you go ahead and show it, right? But what you'll often find is groups where there are no gaps and then areas of gaps. That's what I find usually. Sorry, I'll shut the phone. Erica. Oh, cool. Thank you, Liron. I thought about buying your perspective drawing for kids book for my nephew, but I think it would be good to go back to basics even with loose art foundations. Crucial. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So this is pretty much it for this one. Let's move on to the next one. We do need to keep a nice pace going. It's gonna drive me crazy. So yeah. Next up, we have these. So when it's the same kind of note, I'll just say, The same goes with perspective. Again, it's very subtle still, but you will notice how all these lines, you see it does have this angle to them. Okay, we're looking from below, and yours is flat. Now, I do have to commend you again for the colors. This is absolutely beautiful. I'm not sure how you did the sky this way, but it looks so divine, I guess. It really looks beautiful. I love that. I love that. I actually don't have much to say other than the drawing here. I really like that painting. You do go a little dark in areas where it's not in the original, and that's a matter of choice again. Same goes with the windows, right? I told you about flattening. So look at how thin the windows are, whereas we have a tendency to flatten things, stretch them out a bit, where they should be very thin, okay? See? As soon as I flatten the window, it loses the sense of perspective. But really, other than that, really cool job you did on this one. And I really like the last one, actually. This one was really cool. So I don't know what book that's from, but I love that. Your take on it is wonderful. Like, I wouldn't change a thing, and I love this scene in general. So yeah, real nice. Actually, doing like a master study of someone else's work can tell you quite a bit about your strengths, weaknesses, and so on. And I think even looking at these, you actually nailed it quite closely. The subtle nuance, I would say, is in the color harmony here. So your colors are a little more exaggerated towards the stronger saturation, whereas there's a bit more of a subtle saturation going in the original one, especially with these oranges. Now, that's not a bad thing to change. I'm just saying, if you were trying to do something and the result is different from your attempt, those are good places to test yourself and see where you may want to improve, right? But as a master study, like a study where you put some effort into, and it looks like you did put quite a lot of effort into this, brilliant. I love this. So great job. Lightfall by Tim Probert, graphic novel series. Cool. That's really good. And it does, like, you didn't follow it to the T. You changed some stuff, which I really appreciate as well. So great job on this one. Yeah, Lisa, the vertical lines is a big one. Yep. Esther, thank you so much for being here. First time, cool. Yeah, this is a great one. So let's move on to Kuntal. So Kuntal, you had two more. Now, we did go over them last time, so I will try and give like feedback that's actually relevant and new. For this one, I don't have much else to add. I like your shape design a lot. Like, this way of simplifying things is really clever. Sometimes, you know, I have the tendency as well. I see all of these bumps and I try to include them when maybe a different design altogether would work much better. And I love that you have that freedom to do that. Same for the trees. That's a really cool technique. Not sure if it's just opaque paint over dried paint, and the road here, really, really nice. So yeah, I'm very hesitant to encourage you to change anything. I love how you interpreted the scene, and you made it a lot more interesting to me. I would ask you, and you can answer later, and we'll kind of jump back and forth, but was there something you tried or attempted with these that didn't work out? And tell me, and then we can discuss that. Because generally I love the direction. Now, this is a great example of colors are exaggerated like your other works, but it's so subtle that it's kind of how I would do it, honestly. When I exaggerate colors, that's exactly how I do it. So the colors here are quite muted. We're going to see later an example of colors that are more muted than the reference photo, but here this is a great example of colors that are more saturated, and it's very gentle. And there's a great sense of depth with that yellow and the blue in the background. So fantastic work. My one note for this would be, again, pay attention to the shapes, right? And that's a bit of a nitpick, but notice the angles, right? A bit of that. This, like, it's a bit of a wider, but who cares? The trees. One thing that I wanted to, this is one thing that I thought of. So if you actually look at their shapes, you get all of these, the pattern is kind of a branch and then leaves underneath. And you can see this a lot with all different heights, like a branch, and a bunch of leaves underneath, right? Branch, leaves underneath. Now, the way you did it is very common in terms of brush making. Very common to see just, lines, right? So you just do these lines with your brush. Now, I have no problems with that. What I would challenge you is to think and ask yourself, am I going through the motions, or am I actually designing the details the way I want them to? And if you find that maybe you're going with the motions, and maybe you feel like diving a little deeper and get the leaves to look, the branches and leaves to look more like the original, right? I think having the ability to go very accurate whenever you want to, and then let loose a bit whenever you want to, is a good one. So that would be my pretty much only real note for this painting. Great job, great. Just keep painting. Honestly, it's you're at this point. You just keep painting. You'll improve and you'll grow and you'll find your own nuances and the things you like. So yeah, the horse painting is great, Sunny. Right? Everyone likes the horse painting. Would you be critiquing the ones we've sent recently? Yeah, Praveen. So yours in particular, I don't remember including, so probably I don't have it. My apologies. I will the next time we do this kind of a live stream. So next up, we have Lisa B. And if you want to break it just to chat, let me know, everyone. So this is actually a great example for a pretty much value study, right? There's a bit of purple and green, but for the most part, it's quite monochromatic. It's very much trying to just match the values. And I really appreciate that. I think that's when you get to grow, really. And the impression is great. Like if I zoom out a bit, I would say it's pretty close to being realistic, quite realistic. A couple of small nuances. So in terms of technique and achieving flat washes, I would try and see, maybe it's your paper, I'm not sure, but the washes seem a little patchy. Maybe you don't paint fast enough, or it could be the paper. It feels to me like the paper. So that's something you want to replace, maybe, right? Now, another thing is, when you look at this kind of a scene, first off, the darks could be darker in some spots. The one that stands out to me is this. Like, this could go much darker. All of this stripe here, reflection, could go darker. Same for this area right here. And same for these windows. Now, here's what this brings me to the note I was starting to say earlier. These windows, right? On the one hand, there's this temptation to try and include all of these fragmented shapes, right? But on the other hand, sometimes it is clever to simplify for the sake of just the impression. So maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe this would benefit from treating the windows almost as one kind of dark shape. So you grab a mid value and you'll just do something, I guess, like something a little darker. Just one flat shape, right? That may make a little more sense to the viewer, because ultimately what you're trying to show here is snow and the windows, and the windows do have some reflections on them, but if anything, so here's a cool. Oh, doggo is crying. Let me let her in. See her? Hey, you're so good. Hide the chat. Okay. Dogs don't like being. Does love sitting next. So let me fix this. Of course, I moved it. I have a bit of an issue with. I think we're good. Sorry about that. Let me know if you can't hear me well, but I think it should be okay. Let me know if the volume changed. I'm not sure. Let me see. Okay, no, I think it's good. I think it's good. So, just what I was gonna say. Instead of, and this is actually a cool trick for you to try, look for an overall theme in the small shape, within the small shape. So, when you're looking at this thing here as a small shape, okay, this is a small shape, right? One small shape. So one step removed from what you did is to just treat it as one shape. The next is to find a trend within the shape. Now, the trend I'm seeing, for simplicity's sake, is this side is a little lighter and that side is a little darker. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. Lighter, it's kind of going from light to dark in this direction. Now, this actually makes sense because when you look at a car from a side view, the window has a bit of a curve to it, right? This is really just side view. There's the mirror to the side, but the window has a curve. And these areas that face up tend to catch more light. So what I would do is do this as one shape. The frame is a little darker, so I'd have a slightly darker frame above, but I will do for the window itself. I will let me just a little bit. I don't want it to go that strong. Let's change the flow, maybe. I'll go just a little lighter over the top. Okay, see, like this. So I'm looking for an overall trend instead of trying to capture every little reflection. That's how you create organization. And I know maybe it's not reflection, maybe it's snow and you wanted to portray that, but there is some benefit to it. Look at it again, before and after, much more organized, right? So even when you're doing a study and you're following what you see closely, maybe try and work some effectiveness or logic into it that will make it simpler for the viewer and bring the message across, as they say, right? I hope it makes sense. Let's see what you're saying. Yes, it looks like it does make sense. The paper sucked up the paint and water. I'll only use it for practice. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. And your brushwork is good, but it does seem a little, like a problem maybe. I would use Arch next time. Yeah, it's a new paper. It was crap. Okay. So yeah, those are my thoughts about this one. Now we have another one to go through, so let's see this. I hope that makes sense again. Lisa, if you have any follow-ups, let's leave this one open for seconds. Felt like it. Okay, so this is another great example. I'm trying to remember because as I was looking at it, I had some thoughts, but to be honest with you, that is really the type of study I would encourage. The color matching here is wonderful. It's really good. It's very close. It's actually quite impressive how close it is. See, this is so close to that terracotta color. I do like that you push the sky to be a little stronger. That makes it look better with the yellow, honestly. And I don't know if you interpreted it on purpose a little darker, but I like it. I like it a lot. The main thing where people get caught up in is, I think, again, those branches and foliage can be very tough. I do like that you tried capturing the difference between the layers, because obviously when you look at the original, there's this kind of, the bark is divided into lights and darks. But in essence, it's, I think, a little less extreme than the way you did it. So let's give it a look. Yeah, so the darks here are, to me, the lights and darks are too close to separate, right? So that's one thing I have in mind. Does this look more like one shape, or is it worth separating? So when you look at, for example, this, right? This shape here, of course you'll separate the window because it's much, much darker. When you look at these shingles, right? Of course you'll show this shadow. It's going to be a separate shape because it's much, much darker. But when you look at the tree branch, I think it would benefit from just being one flat shape. Don't be scared to do this. Now, you could either do this wet and wet so that it still stays one shape but has some nuance in it, or you could just get it in one go. So maybe that's a little bit of a, what do you call it, like a nitpick, but still something important. Now, notice your greens. I don't have a problem with them because they work in harmony, but the greens you used are a bit different from the ones here. So essentially what you get in nature is a lot more brown. That's usually what happens with the greens. They look very, very brown. I'll show you a painting I did today. I did another version of this sky painting. Trees, I can show you. The trees down below are just brown. That's a brown. That's not even a green. I know it looks a little green. It's actually closer to brown. I'll show this Instagram soon. But so that's one thing to note. I feel like this is a lot of blue and a lot of yellow. It's just missing a bit of that red. Put it in balance. That's something very common that happens. It's very easy to throw it off, and I actually think it would work better in harmony with this green. But I do have again to commend you for the way you treat the shapes. Like, this is so nice. This sharp edge here, the overall composition, everything. Really, really good. So keep it up. Keep it up. Great job. The bell could be darker, but again, another nitpick because maybe you wanted to show a little more. And honestly, capturing all of these nuances within is just too tough. I would say in terms of shape interpretation, same thing goes here. I would just simplify that to, you know, the shape I'm seeing like this without going into too many details. You're basically hinting at the arch here. You're hinting that the arch is there. So you'll get like this kind of a thing. And then the arch is just made from the whatever light, you know, whatever light color there is. This. And then thanks to the shadow underneath, then people can interpret it as kind of. And then the background's also a little darker, so you'll get the arch showing real nicely and popping out. See? So yeah, I would simplify that as well. Perspective, same kind of a thing. You always want to pay attention to, as we've seen in previous examples as well. This is the perspective, right? We zoom out a bit. This is the perspective. Okay, now what you have here is you kind of missed it and flattened it out. See? So this should actually, let's take your own color. This should go like a much steeper angle. Okay, same for here. You did get the angle nice here, and not so much there. So yeah, that would be pretty much it. And it is a little confusing, right? The structure has some nuance in it. Thank you. I thought of you when I painted that bell. Oh, that's cool. Here, Quintal, my main problem right now is the values and shapes. You can see some of my shapes are odd, as you explained on the tree branches, and on values and saturation, I'm struggling to get it right. Okay, if that's your problem, you just keep going because you're there. You're really almost there. Those aren't necessarily really areas that I've seen you need a lot of work on. Here's what I would say. If you feel like that, choose instead of a scene. That's something that helped me. Maybe it'll help you. Instead of painting a large scene, Quintal, choose a specific object. Maybe like just the horse. Or just something simpler. Simple still life, like you fruit and that's it. And try and see if you can slow down the pace and get the shapes to be a little more deliberate and kind of as you plan them out, instead of going with the motions again. That would be what I would recommend, but not too much other than that, you know? Yeah, Lisa says the tree was hard. Okay, let's move on. I think we are good. So we're going to move to Lisa. Another Lisa. This is Lisa J. So this is an incredibly complex scene. Let's see how many I have here. Okay, so I have a lot of yours, like 6. So I'm gonna look at all of them, and we're gonna do something consolidated of the things I noticed. Okay, so we have this one again, a very, very complex scene. I would be very hesitant to paint it. And by the way, if you're here, I forgot if I saw you. Oh yeah, of course you're here. Tell me what you feel like you're struggling with, and then we'll. You know, I'll get a better picture. What you maybe what you dislike about these. You know, so we have this one, and yeah, we've seen another one of yours that was fantastic. I think the last time, a couple of them. This one, we have this nice landscape. We have this very nice black and white study. It's nice scene as well. Very nice, very close to the colors. Oops, that's Lisa. Okay, so I get a picture. I kind of figure it out. So something that is repeating in the paintings is a bit of the what am I struggling with? Yeah, is the values. It's very confusing. It's a very confusing thing when you compare, for example, these when you look at this reference photo. It's very tough to tell, right? If you turn it black and white, you'll see the patterns, and the patterns are quite clear. So even if I barely look at what you have underneath, and I just grab a bunch of, lightly, I guess, dark paint, and if I had to create a pattern, I would probably, let's leave this colorful, let's duplicate, and then let's turn this. Now I can work on top of that layer. So without even trying too much, what I would do is, okay, so this entire thing here pretty much is dark, aside from a few gaps, in the trees. And then look at what happens here. As we move down, you get just everything is dark underneath with a few highlights. Okay. Everything, there's a theme, kind of. Even the ground is connected, and even the people are connected, and even here on the stairs, like everything is connected, right? But still, and I would actually remove this middle section. And then if you go a little darker, you'll start seeing the shadows under these little what do you call them, awnings or whatever, and some details on the people, right? This is very dark here. This is very dark. So the thing that's missing, honestly, to me, and I know it's a mess, what I did is a mess as well, but the thing I'm missing in the original is an overall shapes. I just don't have the overall shapes. Now, when you look at it in color, it is confusing, right? Because you're like, okay, I did paint the details, I see. But I think just like in this one, right? Where you really have this, overall light and shadow pattern. Same for this, right? And then there was another one, same for this, right? The shape of all of the trees in the background, which I prefer your colors. So this is the reverse of what we've seen earlier. This green is much more natural than the green in the original photo, which I love. So it's a reverse example of that one. This is a perfect example of values. When you work black and white, the values make sense much easier again. This too, I think, again, you could go much, much darker, actually, and I know it's a bit scary, but there is a big contrast here between the lights and darks, okay? You could make it a little lighter, but honestly, like, this is the same kind of idea of connections in the shadows, everything, right? And the cast shadow, just by doing this, look at this contrast, and then look at this contrast, right? This seems a little flatter, this seems a little more realistic. Now, this happens a lot, so you have a tendency, like many others, including myself, to go for the color you think is there and lose sight of the light. The light, strong light from this direction, right? You can see by the shadows, doesn't really care about a local color. It goes dark, which causes these shapes to be very dark. And it calls for this nice contrast with the ocean, which you got the colors and values pretty much perfectly. Okay, so that would be it. Now, again, look, when you work, same thing here, right? Big shape, big shape. Again, I'm missing that. I'm missing that anchor. This entire thing, right? And look at the dress and how much it pops now. His legs, look at how much they pop, right? And sometimes it is scary, and you wonder, like, how do I just paint it flat? Do I add the details and nuance will come later? But you do have fantastic examples of this, right? Look at this, very clear shapes, very clear. Everything is super clear, and you have depth, you have three-dimensionality, this richness of dark within. That's perfect, right? And you have this one as well, great example. Great colors. I again like them better than the original one. Great grouping of the trees. Same goes for this one. So I would say this is a very complex scene. That's it. It's just a very complex scene. So I would maybe be more selective in what I choose. But again, I want to see if you wrote anything like struggled with, and then we'll take it from there. I'm just trying new stuff. I made a painting lighter on purpose. I thought the photo was too dark. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Again, I do change colors. That's great. Scary, yes. That's a very scary scene, honestly. Now, I like changing colors. The question is how you change them. And I feel like, again, this kind of a green that stands out a bit, as opposed to this much more natural blend. I'll show you. Yeah, that's not work. There we go. So here you see it's much more kind of natural olive, brown, green. And here it's a little more artificial and shouty. This in particular, this blue green fits less with the scene, I think. But yeah, I think overall it's just observing the main shapes. Like, I like the way you did the stairs, for example. And it is very clear. Like, there's this shape and then the jagged lines for the stairs. So whenever you get the big shapes in, it looks fantastic. So I would say that's the main one. Now let's go for the ones that I didn't critique as much and give you my thoughts. I actually really like the highlights in the original, just the white. So I'm missing a bit of that. But again, this is a matter of choice more than anything. I like the changes you incorporated here. It doesn't really make sense as much that this would go up like that. It should probably be more up and then down and flat. So what you'll get here is like a flat ocean. But again, considering that you're making some changes, that's perfectly fine. I do love the sparkles. I think they help a bit with the contrast. And whenever you have this kind of a strong core shadow that's just connected, which you did a fantastic job with, and nuances of light and dark, it really helps to justify it with a well-lit foreground. Background, sorry. So just a small note about that. But your blues are fantastic, like this ocean. This looks so good. Same for the other one with the ocean. Again, just so nice. Very nice colors. Yeah, I think this pretty much covers it. Let me know if it makes sense, if you want me to kind of refer to anything in particular. Yeah, the beaches gouache I recognized. I love your gouache work a lot as well. The one from the previous week with the guy sitting, that was a tasty one. Like, really, really nice. So yeah, let's move forward. Hopefully all of that makes sense. Again, great job. Just a few optimizations and you'll be good to go. You seem to have a very interesting interaction with the gouache. It seems to bring out a lot of interesting things in you. So it always is interesting because I wonder if I'll try a different medium, what will come out, and I will try. I bought some acrylics. So now we have Lisa K. So if I'm not mistaken, that's the reference photo. And then this, you said you either ran something through a filter. I forgot. You'll have to forgive me for that, but that is the painting. And I think you did a fantastic job. So two main things that jump immediately to me is one, just the drawing could have been a little more accurate, and you can tell this with the Batman has a good hand. You can tell this with the eyes. Okay, they're a little asymmetric in their angles. I don't know if it'll let me reverse it that way. No, it won't. Edit. Image adjustments, maybe. Yeah, no. Image rotation. Flip horizontally. Okay, so now, after you're getting used to seeing the cat one way, you know that this eye should probably be lower. Okay, then let's do again image. Just image. Was it? Yeah, horizontally. See, so that eye is a little too high. That's pretty much the main thing that sticks out. So the drawing could be a little more accurate. What I do love is how you did group a lot of the different colors, and you took care of the edges. So you have a nice loose edge here. A tough technique, you know, so it's okay. It's a little patchy. That's fine. And you know, nice little smooth edge here around the edges, and then you do have some sharp edges on the face here. Well, this is very, very nice. Just pay attention you don't fall into the trap, unless that's what you want to do, of painting every single strand of hair, which sometimes happens. I would say it doesn't hurt the impression one bit here, so I don't really mind that. But you know, great job. Now if you compare it to the reference photo, of course they're very different, which is fine. I don't remember, because this looks a little more similar to this, so let me know if I'm missing something. But maybe you're following this instead of this. I'm not sure. Either way, that's a really adorable cat. um, yeah, maybe it's just a rotation that throws me off, I would say. But yeah, and I actually like the colors a lot. So you went through all of the kind of grays and blues. I think the blue here is just because of the photo quality. But you went through all of these, again, warms, some cools around the eyes and the ears, some of these reds, oranges. Honestly, really, really nice work. The original one is much more flat in terms of the temperature. It's all just warm, kind of browny yellow. And I like the idea of making it more interesting. I would ask if you actually try and paint it as it is exactly, how would it go? That's a great way of exposing more of your weaknesses. Just as a side note. Now we have 3 more, so let me look at all of them in consolidation and figure out, and then we'll read some of the chat. So we have this one with the mountains. I remember it very well. Then we have this scene. This, I think you just forgot to put the reference photo, but I would guess it's kind of a Christmas tree decoration, which I love all of the reflections on. So I don't have much to compare it to, unfortunately. And yeah. Yeah, so you changed quite a bit. I'm okay with the changes, honestly. You flipped the snow up top and the blue down the bottom. This is very expressive. I like it. I wouldn't ask you to change stuff. But if we explore this one, we have that same thing with kind of core shapes. So let's do this. Canvas size. And we're going to do this. Width. Let's make it 1000. I want to show you something to the side here. So what I want you to put more emphasis on, if you can, is again the big shapes like we've seen earlier. So what do I see when I look at it? I see a light brown for the road, okay? Now look at this angle, right? This angle, and look at yours. Again, flattening out. There's a tendency to flatten things out instead of showing them as they actually appear, like a real tight curve, okay? So don't flatten things. Car as well, right? It follows the... So, but in any case, what I'm seeing is that, kind of a light gray with the dotted line. And I'm just gonna do a real quick painting action here. So this kind of a gray. And then if I just an eraser. I hate when the eraser does that. Go with white. Okay. Then like curvy lines. And then you get the slightly... Did I use the background color for this? Did I make a mistake here? Oh, I didn't. I'm good. And then you have this background that's dark. And then you have these trees that are really dark to the side. And that's pretty much your scene. Very simplified, but that's it. And then car. Then a bit of a lighter section up top. Maybe even... lighter here, just for the sake of, fun. And reflections, kind of like that. Wanted to go the other way. Wanted to start light, dark. Probably closer to the gray, so something like this just disappear. Okay, so I'm missing a lot of these big shapes here. That's my point. So I do this. See, it's not clear enough, right? And again, this thing of flattening and going from above, that's one thing that bugs me a bit. So a lot of simplicity. Like if I were to draw this, I would probably just do this kind of horizon line. That's where the road is gonna come out from. Then I have the dark trees and the light trees. Then the dotted line and the car, and that's pretty much my drawing. You can keep it simple like that and just call this one shape, this 2, this 3, this 4 detail, and 5. You'll be good. Okay, just simplify your own process is what I'm saying. This is really cool. Again, I can't really relate to a reference photo because I don't have it. And this discussed. Sorry that we're going a little fast. I want to make sure I get everything done. And again, this I really actually really like the way you did these transitions. This is really cool. It almost feels like there's a ridge here. I would never think of doing it this way, but it looks so cool. This has width to it. Can you tell? I like that a lot. Especially here. Almost looks like, you know, the lip of a vase or something like. See this? That. That's really, really neat. So, way to go there. Nice creativity. So now we'll have Liz. So Liz, I don't remember your email. I do remember you said you're a beginner, relatively, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I forget. Let's see what you're saying. I'm so scared of painting my animals. What if they revolt? Lisa, that's a great concern. Yep. AA, is it necessary to make perfect cube in cityscapes or when it should be used? I'm going to make a video on this exact topic. The farther the cityscape is away from you, the less important it is to show the cube, you know, in a very accurate kind of a heavy perspective way. It becomes more isometric. So it's going to be flatter. I will make a video on it. Jacqueline just joining. I'll have to go back to watch beginning later. Love the cat painting. Looks like my cat. Cool. Thank you for being here. Barbara, I like the painting better than the photo reflection is great. Lisa, big shapes, perspective, and leaves. Miss Wells, I love the colors in this painting. Really nice. I just think the focus main point is missing too. I like these mountains. Yeah, I like the mountains a lot. So Liz, let's see what we have here. Let's see if we can find some patterns. Oh, I remember your work. Yeah. Okay, so some patterns, which is interesting. So for the first three, which seems like you've been working from a reference photo, from different reference photos, and then this one is based obviously on a video I did. So your contrasts, you're missing the darks. Here, you've got them nicely. This is the nicest one, so I can be proud of because that's based on my tutorial. Now, in these three, very strongly recurring theme is the darks, and here you can see it immediately. So it's very interesting because you got the like overall drawing nicely, and you mapped the placement of the shadows nicely, but then you're just missing the darks. Like you could go dark. Look at this. Look at how dark this is. So, and this. If you've been watching my videos, you know, people have seen this like 100 times. So I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like a broken record, right? But the entire thing should be just dark and a few highlights. That's maybe a highlight. That's the entire thing here is dark. This goes down here, and all of this should be dark, right? And yes, there are a few highlights actually there. We'll look at it in a second. But look at, like, it should be much, much darker. I like how, so this is something you want to capture, maybe a bit of the redness that is shifting. But the main thing is just, you know, the contrast. That's it. So you could go much, much darker. That's my point. And you've seen me demonstrate this many times. Whenever I just, you know, I'll grab, again, I don't want this to take too long, but, why won't it let me add a layer? What did I do? Okay, there we go. So I don't want to be, again, too repetitive. But one more time real fast. Right? This entire thing is a shadow. Everything here is a shadow. And if you want it to feel three-dimensional, you have to remember to go very dark when necessary. See, it starts to feel like there's sunlight on him. Same with the hand and fingers. There's a little gap here. That's nice. Nice effect. Here, shadow, shadow, and then round, around. This entire thing here is a shadow. And obviously the entire background. Shadow. And of course there are some nuances within the shadows. So you'll see where the eyes are. There we go. Okay? So like you have a long way to go with the darks. You just go darker. Don't be scared. It's very interesting how we tend to just paint things differently. We follow the lines we're seeing, but then we miss out completely on a different aspect, which is the value. I have paintings that look exactly the same, by the way. So I was doing the exact same thing. So that would be my main critique to you. For pretty much all of them, maybe this one, yes, it's nice to follow my tutorial, so not. And this one, so this is a little more interpretive, right? So you changed a bit, you used some salt for the effect. So I'm not going to be as harsh in terms of the values with this one. Yes, the background is dark in some spots, which brings out the bird, but it's not as important because you're going with a more expressionistic approach, I guess. So if you want to focus, on one thing is just to check out the values and practice. You can do a value scale, very simple. Just fill in a scale from light to dark and try and allow yourself to do the dark. So for example, here you went quite dark. This would be enough for all of them. If you go this dark, for example, on this one, would be perfect. So you did do it here, which is nice. You did get the full range of values in the beak, for example. That's really nice. That's a nice nuance you captured. See, this is really cool, actually. You got the darks, you got the mids, and then you got the highlight in between. How cool is that? And look at how three-dimensional it makes the beak look. So that's a really cool effect. So you can do it, right? You just got it in one spot. Now you need to get it in other spots. So great job. Keep it up. That's where everyone is at some point, really. You can do this. So let's move on to Marco. Marco, I believe this reference is from Dali, so that's funny. Mainly, I would watch out for the wash. Your values are close. It's not perfect. Shapes also close, not perfect, but it's not detrimental. That's more of an incremental improvement. Now, I think what you were trying to do, which is very tough, is to get all of these nuances in the background, right? Which can be hard. If you really, really want to get some of these, these shapes, these rounded highlights, there are ways of doing it, okay? One thing you could do is just paint them and then paint around them, because the edge is not that soft, right? It is a bit soft, but no one would care if you would do them like this, not as soft. I'm trying to think how to explain it. There is a more direct way to paint to try and get this background in. So first, what I would probably do is wet and wet, whereas I go from this dark to this a little lighter, and I just focus on having a smooth transition, right? Somewhere around here, where I start to transition from dark to light. Now, in order to get these, you can either lift them, or you can have a wash under the wet and wet. Hear me out. A wash of this color / value. And then when you are going to paint the next wash, you pre-wet over this dry wash and then do the wet and wet while painting around these highlights and smoothing out the edge if you want. Okay, so that's another way to achieve it. It looks like here you've tried a bunch of stuff together and it didn't work out exactly the way you planned. Now, I actually prefer that you try a bunch of stuff, so that's great. You experimented, now you can do another attempt and try and be a little more accurate with that, right? Bokeh dots, exactly, Lisa. Use the little stickers. That's a great idea, right? You put a little sticker on, you paint over it, and you're good to go. Just have to be careful if you plan on painting inside the area you taped. It may ruin the paper's ability to absorb paint. So that's one thing you want to pay attention to. I would ideally put the sticker once the wash is done. You are not going to paint over the point where you put the sticker on. So don't paint the dark over a sticker and then lift the sticker and expect to paint this over a white. Instead, paint this, put the sticker on, and then do it, right? I think that makes sense. It's very tough getting these bokeh dots, and yes, people have been asking about it. Now, there's a very subtle effect that I want you to notice, and it's something that myself included, we tend to miss in watercolor. Look at how the light glows from those cherries, right? And it actually creates this halo around them that affects the darkness behind them. That's a very common thing that happens. This is being a AI generated. It's probably exaggerating it, but It does happen a lot. You can even see it here. Close to the leaf, it's a little lighter. That's tough to get in watercolor. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. Again, combination of wet and wet, being very careful and measured with the way you paint, pretty much the only way to do it. Now let's look at some other ones. So I'm gonna look at a bunch of them and then we'll figure out. We'll stop. So let's see, Marco, because you sent me tons of these. This is the only one I don't have a reference photo for. So we'll judge it based on its own. This looks like another Dolly thing. I recognize by that mark here in the corner. This is a great one actually. Okay, so I'm gonna give you again the thing that sticks out to me. This is really nice work. I love how you went dark, but you kept some of the nuances here, right? So it's not just a black flat. There's a lot of richness and depth to it. I like it a lot. One thing to note is the interesting contrast between the sky and the building. So the sky is a little darker, and it makes the building kind of feel lit. Now, you recognize correctly that the sky goes from dark to slightly lighter. Right? That's lighter than the top. And it's a fine effect to try, so you went too fast on the smoothing, on the transition. The difference is so small, this to me is a small difference, that I might have not included it to begin with. But let's assume you do want to include it. That's perfectly fine. And just pay attention that your lower section, let's say it's lighter but still darker, right? And this is actually mind-blowing, right? When you look at how light or dark this is, you look at it in the context of your painting and it suddenly looks super dark, right? So maybe here it's a little lighter, but still quite dark. So look at how, if you do allow it to get this dark, look at how it makes the building glow a bit. And if I were to extend this up, and sorry for using that grayish color, I actually like your color better, but I'll just stick with it just for the sake of showing the contrast. Like, look at how it makes the building pop, right? Much more significantly. Now, your top is a little dark in some spots. But yeah, you get the point, right? Same for the ground. Like, it's really, really dark. Fine. You can make it lighter. Again, a lot of it is choice. Just know that when you have a background that is as light as the foreground and some shadows, people are going to connect the two. So they're going to treat it almost as if this and that are the same shape with some shadows in between. Okay? So if you want to make that separation, you go dark enough so that it is there. Okay? Again, if you want to do this, then do that. That's pretty much what I'm saying. If you don't. And that's perfectly fine. But yeah, so that would be the values. This I really like. I like yours better than the original. Not much to say. I can tell you put a lot of effort into this one. I love that. I love the blue. It's really nice. Not much to say, honestly. I like this one too. This is very tough. Night scenes are hard, and you did a fine job. Just pay attention to, again, the contrast, right? This is super dark. Even this here is super duper dark. Well, this is light. So it's one of those things you want to pay attention to. What happens is essentially, so the way you painted it, it's a little flatter. In reality, if I just do this, I'll show you. If I just do a layer, and I'm gonna go with the soft again. Look at what I'm doing, okay? All I'm going to do is add a kind of a vignette around it. So this is pretty much what happens in the original painting, right? Something like that. And it closes up on that well-lit area. Now, we have a tendency to say, oh, this is green, so let me turn it into this kind of a light green, right? So you could push it a little more. That's what I'm saying. Look at the difference here, right? This is a little closer to the original one. But yeah, it's all the same, you know, light and shadow. This is where most people kind of get lost a bit, which is fine. Let's close these and then look at the chessboard and then we'll move on. Marco, I'm not sure you're here. Let me check. I don't see you. Fine. So yeah, chessboard. Same kind of a thing about the values. This is very confusing, right? This section down here is confusing. I can immediately tell. There's a shadow cast by the soldier, but then it's on a black and white board. And then we have this very strong light that's reflecting over the board. So it's a complex scene. Let's actually do this. Yeah, so we folded quite nicely with the values. I'm just missing a bit of that highlight here. I like the contrast on the chess. What do you call these? Not tools. There's a name for them. Chess. What do you call each and every one of these? Let me know in the chat. I keep forgetting. I think these are great. I like the horse especially. So not much to say there. Again, just some of the and you know, maybe a bit more being careful with your shapes. This actually makes a difference. So here it's flat, and here you get these bit of wobbly lines. And it does translate to a clearer, better, easier to understand pieces. Right, pieces. Yep, chess pieces. A bit of an easier to understand impression. Okay, now there's this light reflection. You actually got some of it here. So good job on that. I have a feeling this could be this should be lighter. So yeah, great job overall. Keep it up. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this one. I have no reference, but I like it. I like it a lot. I actually liked a bit of you know, the way the shapes flow into one another. I feel like you're maybe using some opaque paint so that the light seeps into the dark, and that actually makes me want to try and do the same. So you actually inspired me to want to try something. So I love that. Oh yeah, thank you, Miss Wells. Yeah, knight, bishop, pawn. Yeah, I don't even try to remember the specific names. They just mean the piece in general. So next we have Mayur. Very interesting work. So let's look at that. So we have 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a great example of like really good control of the medium. When it comes to techniques, especially when you look at the background, right? The way the washes work, the understanding like this. So it's not like this in the reference photo, but the way you understand how this looks really good, how hair, when it's thin and there's a strong light behind it, it actually tends to do the thing you're showing here, right? This is very clever. Very clever interpretation. I love how you let this, you know, bracelet merge with the skin tone. It's excellent. Really good work. I'm very hesitant to give feedback here. I actually like your interpretation. Like, this is of course much darker than you have it. So the original one has a bit of a stronger contrast, I'd say, between the different sections. Like this one, kind of like we've seen earlier with the beach scene, than everything here. But and the same for this, the cloth here. But honestly, the way you went, and the shirt, like everything, but the way you interpreted it, bringing it, making it more high key, I like, and I wouldn't do anything differently. Honestly, don't think I have anything that I would change about this one. Let me look at your kind of interpretation of the light and shadow on the face. Very close. You did a really good job here. Really, really good job. You know, the face may benefit from just being a little darker on the dark side, because it feels like it would blend a little better with the hair, which I feel like you have now is pretty strong contrast. I just go like a touch darker, maybe like that. More saturated, a little more saturated, a little darker. Maybe that's the one thing I would change. But quite honestly, I'm very hesitant to give any kind of feedback as to it. It's just really good. Just really, really good job. I don't know what happened here. What's this? What am I looking at? But that's fine. So yeah, really great. And getting this flow here around, again, technically, this flowing together here, down here, merging with the bottom, like very clever. Very clever. This is great. Great job. Colors are on point. I wish I could match colors as well as you. I'm working on it. Great job. Excellent job. Yeah, Jacqueline, yep. Probably could stay light showing a bit more of the face makes more sense. Another great one, I don't have the reference for this, but I mean, it's great. I think I remember, maybe I reviewed another work of yours in the past, but look at the nuance and values. This is so nice. Look at how light this is. And it takes a real gentle touch to maintain such a light wash. Like, I find that I have to constantly remind myself to mix a little lighter. I like that a lot. One thing that irks me just a bit, and it's a personal taste kind of a thing, is all of your darks here, without exception, are cool blues. Maybe this is the one exception, right? I love when there's a bit of mixing it up. So if we go into a warmer range, just showing a bit of warmth here and there. I personally like it. Again, you're painting, you're entitled to do this however you want, but just a bit of warmth in the shadows can go a long way, especially maybe the foreground ones, and then leave the background ones cooler. You do have these areas here, which are very nice, but I suspect they're not as much of a shadow as they are showing the material of these roofs. So yeah, I think that would be it. But I don't have anything almost to say about this one. It's so good. I'm not sure about the perspective. Again, I'd have to see the original one to figure out what's going on there. It feels to me, yeah, maybe it's just farther than it seems. Yeah, it feels to me like this should be a little taller and not go down like that. But again, this could be a downhill slope, and you know, there could be many things that I'm not seeing. But you know, your shapes design is very clever. The way you painted around this fog, very smart. This super light touch again. The bird's very nice. This mountain, it's such constraint. Not constraint. Is that the right word? I think it is. Such constraint with the values and willingness to be very gentle with them and be very accurate with the nuances that is just fantastic. If you look at these, all of these plants here, it's so nice. And the wet and wet. Honestly, look at this. This is so cool. It's almost like an opaque paint brought after the fact and melted into the wet area. It's really nice. You know, this is one of those paintings I don't have much to say. Everything is like a very gentle recommendation. Oh, Miss Wells, no worries. Thank you so much for being here this long. Yeah, beautiful atmospheric perspective. Restraint, yes, that's exactly it. I said constraint, right? Restraint. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, people love the portrait as well. The standing out, making the portrait very intriguing. Yeah, this is great control. Great control of the medium and a great interpretation of it. I really enjoy these. And Pat. So let's see here. We have Pat, Shelly. Oh, I forgot to mention Shelly earlier, and Zach. So let's get through these. Pat, these are impressive. Like the nuances you got here in everything, the colors, the values, it's great. So let's look at some of them. We have this one. This is in the thumbnail, if I'm not mistaken. And we have this one. So you know, actually, on a technical level, this is very high level. To me, I can't control wet and wet this well. Same goes for the previous for Mayur. I can't control wet and wet this well, so I'm impressed. I'm just enjoying these. Will I like this? I'm telling you right now. I'm just looking at it and it's fantastic. I wouldn't change a thing. This, I am seeing some nuances in the edges that I may consider changing. And we'll get to that in a second. And this one again, I have nothing to say. Like I probably wouldn't get it as well as you have. These types of smooth transitions really scare me. But here's what I am seeing if you do want to pay attention a bit more to the edges, right? So whenever I map the shadows for a portrait especially, but for other things as well, I like to show where the hard edges are, where the soft ones are. So here you get a bit of a softer edge, but here it's a little sharper. It's not a big difference. Both are quite soft, but here it's sharper, right? Here it's a bit of a sharp edge as well. maybe even here compared to like this smoothness. Look at this here, right? Smooth, smooth, right? But the thing is, with you, I feel like you just gave her round features, which nothing wrong with that, but it's just a round, smooth, even transition in most spots. Okay, so it feels like, and actually, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing because you give precedence to the big shapes, and you don't get too bogged down in the small ones. So I kind of take that back. I wouldn't change much in that specific regard. Um, just missing a bit of shadows, I guess, in the lighter section. Like, I like seeing this shadow. This could be a little more visible, but it's just nitpicking, really. You did a really nice job here. See, this shadow goes a little more like this, and you got that like that. I got like it's those things that you get to pay attention to because you're so good at this. Like, look at the ear. The ear is this transition into darkness is perfect. I love this. And I wonder how you got all of the hairs and stuff. It looks like, to me, it looks like you masked some of it. So it could be masking, it could be opaque paint, but I feel like it's masking. You let me know. Actually, not sure which one it was. I believe I saw you here, right? Let's see. Yeah, eyes and hair are mind-blowing indeed. More of the contrast, maybe. This person needs a bit more darker values. Yeah, Pat. Use masking fluid. Yeah. So I'm trained enough to recognize it now. Let's see here for everything, because some of it I would have thought like this looks a bit more like opaque paint. Let me know. Jacqueline, there were pet portraits that have done a few people, but the people never look right. Drives me nuts. Yeah, because it's so easy to recognize when something's off about a person. And one thing I'll commend you on, in addition to the portrait itself, like this is such a nice control, such a nice controlled edge. Look, I really appreciate seeing these kinds of things. Look at this line, how it's smooth, and here it's a little more reserved and controlled. And here, so it's obvious to me that, right, you put this background in, you put this this red and this, and you were very selective in where you allowed them to touch, so that they actually mixed more here and here and here, but stayed a little more independent here, which I appreciate seeing a lot. Great job. Yes, also added a bit of opaque paint to the light hairs. That is very nice. That is fantastic, actually. You also captured the likeness really well, and the gaze really, really well. One thing, if you really want to nitpick values, here I don't have much to say. It's perfect. You'll notice how there is a clearer separation between the neck and the face. So if anything, you could go same color, just a little less, just a bit stronger, right? Just a bit stronger near the thing. Here it goes a little darker, but you don't have to go as dark. But even like this shape here, this is such a nice, thorough attention to detail. See, like this, and then softer. This is fantastic, really fantastic work. What's your process? So, Pat, what's your process for getting all of these nuances? I have to rotate this, you'll forgive me, because this is the original orientation. Image, station, counterclockwise. So what's your process to get all of the nuances here within the color? Yes, sorry about that. There was a momentary disconnection. Let me make sure that we're getting back live, and then I'll continue. Let's see here. Yeah, sorry about that. My internet disconnected. My apologies. It didn't cut out too much, but just the colors. So I was saying that, okay, there's a tendency to be very heavy-handed. To me, at least, that happens on the blues and on the reds, and kind of forget the yellows. Because the yellow is quite weak inherently, so sometimes you just need to add more of it. Even oranges, I would say. Look at how the yellow stands out here, right? And if you look at this, it's a bit of a brown orange. Look at how it stands. Oops. Look at how it stands out with the painting, because you do what I do a lot too, and it is, you know, you want to darken, so you go for blue and red, and you forget about the yellow. I'm not sure if that was deliberate or not, but just be aware of that. Okay, this is responsible for the main difference between the reference and the original one. I hope that makes sense. Let me know, Pat. So yeah, this is just, it's almost like there's more yellow here in the mix, right? Not necessarily, not pure yellow, but in the mix there's a bit more yellow. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I am curious, I said, about your process, Pat, if you want to share a bit of how you do these big smooth areas, because I find them very challenging, and I think you captured them really well. Just a bit more contrast, right? A bit more darkness here and there. Perfect. Let's Make Art has a good tutorial on the bokeh effect as a background. Oh, cool. I'll check that out. So this is it for this one. Great job, and thank you so much for sending these. Shelly. And then we'll do Zach. Zach, I have tons of your paintings. So, Shelly, you said this was the original, and then you did a bunch of attempts, which I'm super happy about. So I'm really happy you did a lot of attempts. I like that. Now, understanding that every time you do a study based on a painting, and I would say the looser the painting is, the more kind of interpretive and the artist just kind of goes crazy it is, the harder it's going to be to make an identical study of it. So we have to set our expectations. With that said, you did a really good job in terms of how close you were here. Okay. Now, notice some of the color nuance. So this is a little more of a, I would say turquoise, right? And yours is a bit more French ultramarine. I mean, who cares really? But yeah, the color nuance seems a little tighter here, but it works here as well. And the image is blurry, so I'm doing my best. In terms of values, like this could go a little darker. Notice the organization and shapes. Okay, it's very subtle and it's still quite messy, but in the original one. But look at how it's pretty clear. Like, okay, this is a shape, right? With a few highlights in between, maybe, but it's one main shape. Now with yours, oops, sorry, that's Zach. With yours, it's almost like you separated the top and bottom and the people. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it's one of those things you may want to pay attention to. Yeah. I love the attempts. I love how every time you chose to focus on a different color, and I think this is like, it's great to see how you got the shadow on top right here, and then here it's a bit of a smoother one, and here, honestly, in terms of placement of light and shadows, this is my favorite one. I love this casting here. But in terms of this specific transition, this is my favorite one. I like it a lot. Great job overall, you know. It's very hard to judge. It's based on someone else's painting, but I loved it. I love your approach. I would ask, is there something in particular, and feel free to answer in the comments if you're not here after the fact. Is there something you feel like you're having a trouble with, or something you got royally wrong and really not like you envisioned or planned? Right? That would be my question to you, because all of these, I don't see anything that stands out too much in them. I like the way you approach this a lot. Would be interested to see you paint something based on a photo, and then it's your direct interpretation of the reference photo. I hope that makes sense. Lisa, this would be fun as a triptych. I forgot what a triptych is, so let's check real fast. Hey, Alessandro, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. Oh, yeah, triptych. I love these. Yeah, I love these. I love seeing these in museum. Actually, that gives me an interesting idea. I'll have that in mind. I'm actually going to write down a note for myself for later. Okay, have a nice day. So 64 squares. Any tips on making paintings look really sharp? So sharp is very vague as a term. I'm not sure what you mean by sharp. So if you could clarify. Or even better, feel free to send a link if you can. If it won't let you, send me an email with a link of a painting you feel like is sharp and a painting you feel is not sharp. And then I can give my 2 cents on that. Nice paintings. I love the first in the woods, the horses, the parts. Yeah. A lot of these are so on point. Oh, wait, I lost my OBS. Where's my streaming software? There it is. Now, where's my Photoshop? There it is. Okay, good. So we'll move on to Zach, our last person for today. Now, Zach sent me tons of paintings. So I had to merge them together. So just look at how many paintings there are here. Now, if I have to recognize a theme with your work, Zach, it's that you're faring really well with muted colors. So if you look at this and this red, they're so close. Same for this blue, I would say, right? But you do have a tendency to weaken the colors and make them a little more gray. Nothing wrong with that, especially here you can see it. So this is the other way around from some of the examples we've seen earlier. Nothing wrong with that. There's a nuance here. You see, the color you used is actually present here, just not much of it. So I would say that's something to watch out for. Okay, if you're doing it unintentionally. But you see, when you look at a scene like this, where the colors are a little more subtle, you're doing great. You're matching them really well. Same here, quite gray. You're matching it well. This red, right? It's a little grayer in your example. This really nice. This here is really, really nice as well. Nice kind of matching. So that's one thing to pay attention to. Okay. Next is the drawing and the perspective. Once again, same mistakes, very common. Everyone does this. Don't feel bad about it. And let's explore it. So, same exact thing we had earlier. Look at the perspective here. If we were to connect all of these lines together, we'd get a vanishing point somewhere around here. That would be our horizon line. Okay? And that's something that you've kind of lost in your... Okay, you see? It's a bit more of an angle there, especially this right up top. Now, as a rule, the closer you are to the object, the more exaggerated this is going to be. So let me actually show you on a new piece of paper. So when you look at a box, and this relates to what someone asked earlier about a cityscape, was it AA or someone else? I don't remember. When you look at a cube from afar, it will look isometric, which means these lines are all perfectly parallel on paper. Okay, this is parallel, all parallel. Now, if we were to bring that box, make it closer to us, we will start seeing some of the lines tapering this way. Okay, when it is closer to us, these lines will not be parallel on paper. We'll draw them a little tapered. And the closer we bring the box towards our view, the more exaggerated this effect will become, till it's really wacky, like you're seeing here. Okay? The same goes for this kind of a structure. Do a new layer. When you look at this structure, this kind of a shed, right? This is, if it was from afar, this is what you would see. Even at an angle, if this was from afar, you would see something like this. Even at an angle, this is what you would see. Or you'd see something like, depending on your height and point of view, you'll see something like this, okay? Right, if it's from above. Now, the closer we get, okay, the more these lines are gonna taper. See? And what happens when we're really, really darn close? Not even as close as you see here, right? Let's imagine this left section does not exist, and that's what we're seeing. This is still not as exaggerated as in your reference photo, where it really is exaggerated. See this? Look at this. We're really talking like crazy levels of exaggeration here. So that's one thing you want to be aware of that you're missing. Okay? Just a bit of that. I've noticed it in other places as well. Let's see if I was imagining here as well. Okay? Look at how flat this is and how you made it a little wider. Okay? So if you were to flatten it even more, you'd get something like this, right? Now, let's let go of drawing for a second and talk a bit about your technique. You've done a really good job. I like it a lot. Look at how Zach controlled the edges here in a very nice way. It almost feels like some parts of this were painted very freshly a la Prima. Even though this is a sharp transition, Zach seems to have gotten some nice, smoother transitions within it. So it's almost like you painted this. See how it's sharp here, sorry. Sharp here, smooth here. I love that. I adore that kind of work where it's a very controlled edge. Same goes here. Shadow connected to the boat itself. Very, very nice work. So it seems like to me a strength of yours is the values and the light and shadow. And then some things to work on are the colors and the perspective. So that's something to think about. Let's see if anything else comes in mind. Honestly, not much. You're doing a really good job. If I had to choose a favorite, it's this one right here. It has pretty much everything. It has the values, it has the shapes. If you really want to take this to the next level in terms of likeness, a bit more accuracy on the values. The way you do this is by, again, darkening what's necessary. So if you look at this mast, it is pretty much dark for the vest. If I do this in a separate layer, it's going to be cool. So let's say this is how dark it is, right? And then if you want to get those little nuances here, we'll bring an eraser, sharp one at that, and we'll just get rid of whatever the line we did. And then we start getting the crease on the sail, right? Now it should be more saturated, probably a little more colorful. It's gonna be real hard to sample. Let's zoom in a bit. Like this maybe, or maybe it's saturated. No, a bit more saturated, right? And then, for example, this left side's a little more on the blue and dark. Let's not go as dark, but like dark. And then the background here, also quite dark. You know, once you start getting, this is very important. So they got a nice little mid value. And then in the middle, you get these nice highlights broken off by the shapes of the planks, making it, you know, building it. This could be way darker here, see? With a bit of a hint here at the highlight. I'd probably make this a little lighter. This, see? Same for this entire reflection is much, much darker. So once you start getting these things to be a little more accurate, like look at this, whatever it is, like this cage thing or whatever. Background is quite dark. This is quite dark. And then you have highlights interspersed in between, right? So if you really want to bring that final touch, sorry, let's do this final kind of touch of improvement. That's one way to, and I don't know why it's so annoying. There's a little bug in my Photoshop, it seems, but that's fine. Yeah, this got stuck here. I don't know. But in any case, I hope that makes sense. If you really want to take it to the next level, that's the kind of thing I'll do. Let's close this one. Same here, you see? Like, this is much darker. It's a smooth kind of transition from a dark to a more light. See? Same here. You want to get some nice rich shadows under the window. You know, here as well. So it's the nuances, honestly, and it's a great place to be. It just means you need a little more like focus, a little more like working more slowly, more deliberately. You know, hope that makes sense. But overall, your work is great. Like you're making great progress with these. I can tell you're working hard. I can tell you put a lot of effort into them, and you're there. You're getting there. So keep at it. Great job. Let's see what I missed in the comments. And I think we'll get close to wrapping it up. But the one I edited earlier is like my favorite for sure. I like the attempt here with the, you know, smooth edges. That's really nice. And hard to achieve, right? That will come with practice. But yeah, I love the boats and the warmth. Really nice. Really nice. Henny, how are you doing? Could you suggest any other basic free ones? Oh, what app are you using to edit these photos? Oh, yeah. I'm using Photoshop. Um, I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with like a good robust one other than GIMP, GIMP, which is a nightmare to work with, unintuitive nightmare of a software. So I don't have a good one actually. Unfortunately, sometimes I find that what works best for me is the software that comes with the operating system. So on my Mac, I would use the not preview, the image viewer, the normal image viewer to edit. You can play around with the values, with the levels. You can do a lot of things with it. Um, you can't posterize, unfortunately, but you can do that. Oh, by the way, Zach, I have to commend you for keeping this light. You know, it's much darker here, but I think your choice is better. By the way, you improved upon the original for sure in that regard. By the way, your water is too light, so they don't have enough presence. So if I were to select the water, and then let's remove from that selection the boat. Let me show you real quick. They feel a little void right now. And the way you remedy that is by darkening them. So you could go with the same kind of a gray. Just a bit more presence. See? Do the before and after. Just a bit more presence to them. Makes them look like they're solid. Okay? That's a major thing that happens to a lot of people. They look at water, they think, oh, water, it's just paper white or very light. So yeah. Thank you so much, Pat, for the super chat. Is that a super chat? Yes. Thank you so much. I wasn't sure if it's a sticker. Thank you for the constructive criticism, feedback. Always learning from you, Liron. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So let's answer some more of your questions because this is all the paintings we had, and I'm happy. 1 hour and a half. That's great. Pat, great job, by the way. Great job. You keep at it. I'm curious to hear more about your technique again. If you want to email me with some descriptions, I'm curious to hear like how you work on these big areas that have a lot of nuanced color in them. And thank you so much. Much appreciated. Like super chats and donations and stuff. It's amazing. Thank you. Henny, awesome. Thanks. Doing a big piece soon and we'll need to plan properly. Send it to me. I want to see it. IDF Clutch Nixon. I've sent GIMP and Krita. Okay, yeah, Krita I heard of, but I never tried, so I wouldn't know. I've sent a picture of my latest painting. It is just a still life composition, not a scenery. I'm still new at those. Cool, I'll check it out. And I'll add it to the next one for sure. Let's see here. Josephine, I'm going to find that cube video of yours and practice cubes. Yeah, this one got quite a lot of views, so if you filter by most viewed, you'll find it easily. Lisa, Liron, do you have perspective class? I bought 2 of your classes. They're helpful. Yeah, I'm actually planning on making one. Like a beginner to advanced perspective course. I have a plan to do one, and I think it's gonna be really good. With what I'm talking about here, but some more advanced stuff, much more advanced stuff. How to measure into distance, how to find distances inside the depth of the painting. There's a lot of cool things you can learn to do. I am planning on something like this, and if you ask, it seems like there's demand for it, so I'll get it released. Hopefully this year, I believe. It's a lot of work to film a course, but it's in the making. So yeah. Morning Village by Mayor is so nice. Yeah, indeed, Alessandro. 64 squares. I meant how to... Oh, let's see. I missed something else. Oh, yeah. I meant how to make artworks look really saturated and clean, tidy in painting, not just watercolor. So a lot of it comes down to the balance. So when you have a very balanced... And the balance can change, right? But a very congruent balance. So, for example, some areas are very saturated, others are not as saturated. And you enjoy the full range of saturation, the full range of shapes and values and edges. That's what usually makes it look like crisp, clean, clear shapes, a variety of edges, a variety of values, a variety of temperatures and colors. And that's usually what it comes down to. It's a bit more of an advanced thing. And even my paintings, every few of them will or will not have that quality to them, and that's fine. If you do have a few specific examples, I'd love seeing them, and then I can maybe give you some more explanation of how they did it specifically, right? But yeah, I hope that answers it. It's usually from the variety and range of values, colors, edges. Edges are key. Again, these small edges here that Zach did, they really break the sharpness and they'll look really good. Same for the under the boat. You have this right, this shadow here, this smooth transition is key to make the scene work, in my opinion. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, people are super nice. I hope you critiqued my surgeon one. I'm not sure which one it is. I might have not seen it, but I will add it to the next one, so don't worry about it. Nancy, when is your next critiques? I don't know. But it'll probably be at least 2 or 3 weeks because I have some plans for next week's live stream. You're gonna see soon. So yeah, I don't know yet, but it will come at some point. But I just need a bit of a break from these because I have other things scheduled out and so on. IDF, I tried some of your techniques, wet and wet, and partially wetting a paper to get a hard and soft edge. Worked better than my previous paintings. Awesome. Yeah. It's really a game changer when you realize you can pre-wet some areas, not everything, and then paint and touch those pre-wet areas and get both a smooth and a hard edge. And it makes it so much easier and faster in terms of the process. So yeah, that's great. Pet nuances obtained. Oops, sorry. There's a weird fly here, and I'm smacking it all over. Away from me. Nuances obtained by doing several layers and re-wetting the area each time. Interesting. So you work really like thin glazes and almost push it slowly to be the final thing, right? That's cool. That's really cool. Lisa, this is a lot of work for you, Liron. I recognize that, and thank you so much. I don't see any other artists doing this for their friends. I'm sure someone out there does, but yeah, I'm trying to be helpful as much as I can. Honestly, this is, I think, what most people want, just to get their paintings kind of critiqued, and this is what you work on, this is what you don't. And I don't feel like putting this, behind a paywall like some do. It's like a small club that, I don't know. I don't have much interest in that. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. Much appreciated. Exactly. One part of the composition was a vase, and since it is a round object, partially wetting really made a difference between the shadow and the light. Yep, exactly. Must run wonderful paintings. Bravo to all who send their work. Thank you, Deborah, for being here. Alessandro asks about Pat's technique if you use a hairdryer. Interesting. I'm curious as well. Yes, seeing all the critiques is helpful. Awesome. Yeah, okay, so Pat does use so yeah, I think we can wrap it up. I do want to thank you so much for being here. Next week is going to be a night. I can just say it. Okay, listen. So this is for next week's live stream. There's a little announcement to make. Is it next week? I believe it is. Let me make sure I'm not making a mistake. Yeah. So next week, we're going to have, once again here, Steve Mitchell from The Mind of Watercolor. So look forward to that. It's going to be a fun live stream. So remember, I did a short while ago, I did this. Let me switch over to a full. So if you remember, about a month and a half ago, I did a video of like send me your frustrations and struggles, and I still haven't covered those. I'm gonna go over everything and choose the few, recurring themes, and some of them, of course, we have discussed here before because that's the thing with the recurring themes. And I'm gonna bring Steve here with me so that he can give his point of view as to how to work on these issues, because I find that there's only so much that I can do by myself, and having someone to bounce off of, someone with way more experience than I am, will be excellent. So look forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and make sure you are here. Next week is going to be fun. Worst case, watch it after the fact, but I would say there will be time for QA as well near the end. So if you do want to ask Steve some questions, it's a great opportunity. And if you want, if there's something in particular you want me to make sure that is covered in the conversation, and that Steve addresses, feel free to send me an email. I'll see it, and I'll try to make sure it's included, right? But we'll do this live, and it's going to be fun. So next week, again, Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, same time, and I really hope to see you here. It's going to be fun. I hope to bring in more guests. I find the conversations really fill me up with energy and give me major insights, honestly. So it's really fun. But yeah, with that, I think we can wrap it up. I do want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the courage for everyone who sent their paintings. Great job. I started looking at some of the new emails that I just didn't make it in time for this one. You're making progress. I believe Mary sent me one. Mary, I didn't see you here, but you're making progress, like crazy progress. So keep it up. Great job. Liron and Steve Mitchell together, you count me in. Yeah, so I hope to see you there, Steve. And yeah, thank you so much. So we'll wrap it up, and I will talk to you next week. And in the upcoming videos, I have a few more in between, probably. Until then, take care and keep painting. Just great fun. And I'll keep updating you on my work as well. Jackie, thank you so much for being here, by the way. Sorry I missed some of your chats. And Nancy, thank you so much. I will see you all next week. Take care.